Okay, well, we could talk about this episode. We started to see actually the parallels of Rita and Lord Zedd. And
Mhm.
this, like, I was going to say, this is a reason why they're a perfect couple. Does Akil know they're married, or is that too much of a spoiler?
I think that's a spoiler. Yeah, I don't think.
Do I need to step out again so that you can do your intro clip?
No.
No, because
Okay.
we can't put the intro clip because you watch the episodes.
I'm not a ranger yet, but I will be in the future.
Once a ranger,
Always a ranger.
Welcome back to Once a Ranger. I'm Minhas. I'm joined with Nev and Akil. This week, we're going to be talking about the wannabe Rangers, Putty Brain, and Bloom of Doom. Let's start with the wannabe Rangers. Lord Zedd attacks with a monster that can morph from one ranger to another. All right, let's get into it. Akil, any thoughts?
I wanted just overall thoughts for all 3 episodes. I love that they were all ranger on ranger violence. I love that they were all evil rangers a little bit.
Yeah.
But this one specifically, the acting was so on point for. Okay, so quick recap. The monster in this is a costume that Zack was wearing. I think the costume turned into the monster. And it was an ape that can shapeshift into the Rangers. So when the Rangers are being taken over by the ape, they're still acting like the ape. And that acting was really good. They're like flailing around, they're making weird sounds. That, I think the actors had a lot of fun being that monster monkey.
Yeah, I love when they transitioned into like Zack and even Billy. The transition was the monkey was like pounding his chest, and then they started pounding their chest. Like that was a transition. I thought that was so good.
Yeah.
I always love an evil Billy. I think he does particularly a good job at it.
He certainly does a job at it.
I know how you feel about Billy.
I know how you feel about Billy, but I can't. I think I said this last time he turned evil too. I can't take Billy seriously when he's evil. He's too soft. He's too much of a soft boy.
I think that's why it's more jarring when he's evil.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that's so out of character. Like, spoiler for like 2 episodes from now, when Kimberly's like jealous, no one's like, this might be a spell. It's more like, that's weird a little bit, I guess. It's like it's not too far of a stretch.
Yeah. I think out of all the Rangers that we've seen turn evil over the year, I think Kimberly is the evilest of the evil. But I think Billy, you're right, it's the most significant change.
Yeah.
And it's
Sure.
Yeah, definitely. I did note that they said pasta la pizza again.
Pasta la pizza, baby.
That's their favorite line. We should make a tally. I said this last time, but we forgot of every time they say pasta la pizza and have a nice trip, both of which happened within the span of the next 3 episodes. Yeah. Have a nice trip. This episode was really funny because for some reason, let's go over the plot. The planets align and Zordon, for some reason, deionizes. And everyone's like, what does that mean? And then Billy goes, yeah, he means, then, what is deionizing? And Billy goes, it means he de-energizes, as if that provides any clarity. But sure. It's like it almost non-important part of the story. Like it has like really no like real no effect, except like maybe he's like Alpha's dad, and like Alpha now has permission to do whatever he wants. He's like, Dad's not home. I'm gonna leave the command center. I'm gonna help this random kid named Dylan. And then like, all right, things didn't go as planned. I'm just gonna off myself. Like straight to suicide. You know what I mean?
I've enabled my self-destruct program.
Yeah, I think that was the most jarring part of this episode for me. Is that I'm not going to take you to the command center. I'm just going to off myself instead.
Yeah.
Like, first of all, that's not an adequate response to that. But also, it takes him like 10 to 15 minutes to self-destruct. Right. So he easily could have been captured and taken to the command center in that time. Like hitting self-destruct didn't do anything for him in that moment.
Unless he didn't know the guy, he couldn't just tell him how to get to the command center, because he did physically shut down.
Yeah, I think the monster was planning to basically have Alpha like teleport them to the command center.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
So by self-destructing, by like shutting down, your all other functions are like basically not functioning.
Yeah.
yeah.
So I think that there was no clarity on that, but that's, I don't know, for some reason that's how I read it. Because he grabbed Alpha, right? The Premator grabbed Alpha. So I was like, well, they're not gonna walk to the command center, I'm assuming. So I'm assuming he was trying to get Alpha to like teleport them. So that was my at least headcanon.
That
Yeah.
makes sense.
It
I'm
does.
like,
It was definitely a funny reaction. Like, but and you know what? I'm gonna be honest. I was concerned the way that the story was gonna go was Alpha was gonna ping the Rangers for every stupid little thing, that they're gonna miss the fact that there is like an ape monster, because he's like, oh, a little kid, better call the Rangers. And I was like, Alpha, really? Is this something you need to call the Rangers for? And then he immediately was like, actually, this isn't something I need to call the Rangers for. I'll just do it myself.
but that I think that would be a very good Rangers plot, as if they were just running around fixing tiny things instead of addressing the monster. I'd like to see that sometime in the future. That'd be a fun episode.
That would be a fun episode.
That'd be a good plot for like the villains to enact, right? Is like they cause all these other smaller issues, you know, like people get trapped in their car or something, and then someone, you know, like falls into a ditch, or and it's like, oh, get the Rangers to do these things, and then meanwhile there's a monster like stealing
Yeah.
stuff for like Zedd or something.
Yeah, and cut to they save the person, and the person leaves and turns into a putty, and he's like,
Yeah.
"Whoa."
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
perfect Ranger episode.
Yeah.
We
And
did
that-
it.
That would also address like the big issue that I had, that I think we talked about in the season finale, of the Rangers solve both problems. They solve the A plot and then they solve the B plot, and everything's fine at the end of every episode. So I would love to see if the B plot of them like doing the little things interfered with them solving the A plot at all.
Yeah.
I didn't really think about. I'm like, isn't that what's supposed to happen? They solve their issues.
I mean, yeah, that is what's supposed to happen, and this is just like grown up 31-year-old Akil complaining about a kid show, is that if it happens every single time, like I'm sure that's great for kids, but it's, for me, like we'll talk about this a little bit later, but I really like that they have an underlying plot in this season that continues from episode to episode, instead of just resolving every single thing at the end of every single episode.
Yeah.
It's keeping me in.
Yeah, they're starting to like hold together a continuity that will continue. I really enjoyed, okay, so I was thinking about this a lot, because last season it really was like all over the place. But I enjoyed these episodes a lot, especially since in the last episode of our One Stranger podcast, we talked about concerns over the new Megazord and how they don't have footage. I actually think it worked in the Rangers footage favor, because now we have more footage of the Rangers as actual Rangers, as opposed to these long Megazord scenes, which happened a lot in the last season. So I thoroughly enjoyed these 3 episodes. This episode, Jason, I love Jason. He's so insane in this. Like, he's just like literally like, fight me, and then he's like kicking people in the face and shit. Like, you literally kicked Tommy in the face. I mean, obviously, like, it was the monster, but like just immediately, no hesitation.
He's been waiting for this. He's been waiting for a
like,
chance to beat up these people.
it was so good. He was like, all right, I'm gonna like just kick Tommy in the face. Yeah, he was waiting for it. That is so funny.
Yeah.
I love Jason in this episode.
Don't you love Jason in every episode?
I mean, fair enough, but I extra love Jason in this episode. I thought he was so funny. Like his immediate response to Trini, like the double Trini, is like, both of you fight me. This is the clear solution. Which, by the way, like that sequence with the double Yellow Ranger was so good.
It's the comedic timing of just going down the line, and then there's 2 Yellow Rangers.
Yeah.
So good.
Oh, this is so well done. Like, I'm the Yellow Ranger. I'm the Yellow Ranger. Like, what? Where did you come from? Like while they were morphing, this guy also morphed and got in line.
Yeah.
This monster is so good.
Mm,
Yeah, no,
But
I
also
really
really-
like this monster.
yeah.
I vaguely remember them from like, I guess my memory and stuff, but uh, I just it's such a wacky monster with just like how much absurdity in the like gestures and motions and everything. The like backflipping and changing it to different rangers as he's doing it. But also really powerful. Like at one point, he just like releases this burst of electricity or something that just like hits all the rangers.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I don't know where these powers are coming from, but I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually made a note because Zack said this guy's crazy, right? Like when he's flipping around and he's doing the like very like bodily movement of when he is the ranger, still very like what you were talking about, body acting.
Mhm.
And Zach's like, this guy's crazy. And I wrote in my note, you're right, Zach. He is crazy because like that is like the most apt commentary that I've seen about a monster that they were fighting. So much so that I had to make a note of it.
Speaking of Zach, though, the one it was really funny, but I was also a little bothered was when the monster disguised as Zack sends Trini and Kimberly to the park, right? And they like leave their drinks, so he takes a sip and he goes, banana shake. It's like the third banana comment at that point where I was like, oh my god, but it was just so hammy and it was so good.
It is so good, especially since going back to the fact that they don't feed these monsters.
Mhm.
He, of course, he's thinking about food all the time.
Yeah.
That's so funny. I did make a note about that scene you were just talking about. So this is the first time that we really see this inner turmoil between the Rangers, like an actual frustration that is not directly from being under a spell. Like, I don't know who it was. I think it might have been Kimberly. She said, "Where were you guys? Like, we were in the park. Where were you guys?" And it's like genuine frustration. And I like that they're starting to do that because obviously there is a lot of these things happen. And I mentioned it to Nev back when I was watching Cosmic Fury. I was like, this team actually has a lot of inner turmoil between them. Like they're always frustrating each other. Like, what are you doing? That was a dumb idea. You're a bad leader. Over and over again. And I thought that was really interesting to add in that season. I liked it a lot. And this team was just like completely different. But so I was like, oh my gosh, they're actually have these moments where they're like genuinely frustrated with each other.
Yeah.
And this is like I think one of the first times that we see it.
It is, but I feel like that's a theme that's I don't know. For these 3 episodes, I got the vibe that the whole season will be a little bit darker than season 1.
Mm.
And I think the title sequence added to that as well. But the fact that all 3 of these episodes are inter-ranger conflict, inner turmoil, that's not under the spell. Like what we'll see in the 3rd episode that we watched today is that Trini and Kimberly's beef started before Kimberly was put under the spell.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think Trini, like most of their conflict happened before they were under the spell. Before Kimberly was under the spell. And I don't think Trini knew that she was under a spell because they didn't interact after that.
Yeah, no, literally. That's why I was saying earlier. I was like, it seems like nobody thinks this is out of character for Kimberly.
Yeah.
Which is nuts. But in their defense, also, Kimberly gets put under spells a lot. Like Kimberly and Billy and Tommy, more than anyone else, get put under mind spells.
Mm-hmm.
More than anyone else. Those are the ones that always get mind spelled.
Yeah. Well, Tommy came pre-mind spelled, so
yeah,
he's prone to it.
He is prone to it.
Yeah, well, that was something I found really interesting because as we were talking about with the last with season 2, because they're using more original footage, I feel like they have to find ways to fill the time more, which at least right now I feel is kind of working to their benefit of like, okay, they have these like 2 plots going on, right? Like more so in the next 2 episodes than this one. But like, you know, there's like and they do it like in story 2, Zedd does one thing and then he sends a monster, right? And so it's like there's more focus on the human interactions versus just like getting into the suits and the Zords and fighting. And so I'm really liking that actually. I really enjoyed these episodes for that. Like, oh, Zedd also feels like he's being more like making more of an effort to do it, like, you know, because he's trying to cause the problem in one way with a monster, right? As opposed to just like the monster is the problem, right?
Yeah.
So I
Yeah,
really
no, you're right. That is a very nuanced way at looking at it. I didn't think about it like that. Great
Mhm.
observation. One thing I did note, so last episode of Once a Ranger, I talked about how Kimberly to me is the equal, she's equal to Buffy, right? She's like the defined feminine mixed with this like power fighting kind of warrior. And this episode was a perfect opportunity for her to do that because they were even like, oh, its weakness is mirrors. And she's like, luckily, I always carry a mirror. And I love that. I was so excited. Cut to Kimberly not being the one to give him a mirror. In fact, it was Billy with a mirror that had already a Triceratops logo and everything on it, which I thought was like, I'm like, I wish it was Kimberly. That's all. I wish it was Kimberly who had that and gave it to them.
that's fair.
Yeah, but are we sure that Kimberly's mirror didn't have a Triceratops on it? I don't remember seeing the back of it, but it was blue.
Was her mirror blue?
Yeah, when she pulled it out in the command center, I'm pretty sure it was blue or like a
That's
blue.
so funny. That's so cute. If it did, she'd be
Yeah.
like, I got it because it reminds me of my friend Billy, who I love.
Yeah.
And then she's like, you take it.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think it's just those little moments of interaction where I feel like they didn't have little moments like that in season one where they like really connected. They were really like goody two shoes. But like here we have a little bit of connection, a little bit of conflict, and I think it really fleshes out the characters a little bit.
I think so too. That's why when Nov was talking about how like season 2 has a lot of filler like season 1, and then it's like it really does it. It's like season 2 is a lot more streamlined. I mean, I think we thought that because it also has a lot of episodes,
Yeah.
but I think a lot more, it's more focused. A lot more goes on with a purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's possible. I just don't remember season 2 as well, so that's probably why I said that. And I'm happy to be proven wrong if that's the case, you know. So far I'm really enjoying it. We'll see how long this formula, if it maintains, will keep me entertained, but
Yeah. So far season 2 is so good. Like I'm excited about each episode. Like I haven't seen an episode where I'm like, man. It's like I love these episodes. They're so good.
Yeah.
Do you want to move on to Putty Brain, or do you have any final thoughts about the first episode?
Well, I just quick comment about the formula. This episode had the entire formula. It had a hyper specific monster. It had a child in danger. It had evil rangers.
It did have everything.
Hmm?
Everything all in one. So this episode was definitely nuts.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was.
well, yeah, I think the thing that was most interesting to me was seeing Alpha's little journey, but like also the fact that he was out of the command center.
Mhm.
Which like obviously I know all the Alpha footage and command center footage is like original, but for some reason this episode, because he was out of the command center, it really hit me like, oh, everything they film with Alpha is like American footage, right? Like Alpha doesn't
Yeah.
exist in Sentai. So it was just like a thought that really was like, oh, clear to me. Oh, they had to like shoot this of him being outside the command center and whoever's playing Alpha or whatever, however it works. I don't know. Pretty interesting to me.
Yeah, this is only the second time that he was outside of the command center. The first time was on Halloween, which he could do because everyone was in costume, which
Yeah.
is funny because when Bulk and Skull saw Alpha, I legit thought that they would have recognized him for a second
Mhm.
because he did come out on Halloween, but they didn't.
Yeah.
I mean, which is fine. It was a long time ago. Like, I don't blame them, but it was just, I just
Yeah.
thought that that's what would happen.
Speaking of, I think it's important because it is, I think we talked about it last episode because that's kind of where the genesis of it is, but like they are firmly now pursuing the discovery of the Power Rangers' true identities.
Yes.
And as we see in the next 2 episodes, it's literally their shtick now, right? Which is interesting. I like it because it's more than just them like being, yes, they're comic relief, but they're still comic relief with a purpose, which is more interesting than just like, we need a funny gag and thing to fall on them. Okay, haha. You know, we got enough of that with like 60 episodes, so it's cool to see them like still being the comic relief, but doing something in the meantime to like actually warrant some of the silliness of it.
Yeah, and I feel like it gives Skull more room for things to do as well. Cause like last season he was just there, really.
Yeah.
Like Bulk was the main focus of everything, like everything slapstick. And like Skull was more of the guy who was like the setup. But this time they're kind of like they look at each other, they talk to each other. Like even I think it was this episode, it's like we have to be suspicious of everybody. And then they look at each other and they're like,
Yeah.
nah, but it's so good. I was
Yeah.
like, this is so good.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think I made a note like they're like dressed opposite, like Skull's I think wearing a black top and gray pants and Bulk is wearing the opposite. I thought that was cute.
Mm.
It's
Yeah.
weird to notice that. But I think like last season we were talking a lot about how they don't really deserve to be the butt of the joke.
Sure.
Because they're genuinely trying really hard. They come in second place and everything. There's no reason for people to be making fun of them. But I think with this ongoing plot, if it continues, of them trying to find out who the Power Rangers are, I think obviously we don't want them to find out who the Power Rangers are. So it makes me feel a little bit better when things go awry.
Right.
When
Yes, no, totally. Yeah, like in I guess 2 episodes from now when we can get to it, there was like you're like, oh, thank God.
Yeah. The last thought I wanted to share, because the title of the episode is The Wannabe Ranger. And a
Mhm.
thought that clicked in my brain was just, is this about the monster or is this about Alpha?
That's
Ooh.
true.
Ooh.
That is a good point because he does go Alpha Ranger to the rescue. He specifically says that line.
Right. Yeah. So it was just like a fun thought I had. I was like, oh, okay, maybe it's like a double entendre type thing.
I love that. That's good.
I also like that he wants to be a ranger, but the first thing he does when he meets a problem is off himself.
Yeah. He's like, nope.
Not cut out to be a ranger.
That's why Zordon had to be stern with him, you know?
Yeah, literally, he's grounded. This episode is so funny. And
Yeah.
just like as a like last note about Jason again, Jason is so crazy. So like Alpha reboots and the mom shows up. He's like, thanks for finding my kids, Power Rangers. And Jason's like, thanks, Alpha. And then he like just dips. Jason, this mom does not know who Alpha is, first of all. She just shows up. She knows the Rangers. You didn't even say this is Alpha or like he's the one who really helped your kid or like any context whatsoever.
This is our friend Alpha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Please, can we have one context? One context, please, Jason.
Dylan will never forget Alpha. He'll fill in the blanks for his mom later.
I just thought that was so funny. I mean, you're not wrong because I'm like, yeah, you know what? Eventually, like the kid will tell his mom, but in the moment, literally, thank Alpha, and then dips like immediately.
Yeah.
Like, Jason, you're so insane. I love him. This is why he's the best. But going to Putty Brain.
Yes.
Lord Zedd cast a spell on the Power Rangers. So this episode was like a reverse of the last episode, kind of, where it's like, and I like that Zedd is just kind of like, you know what, like that, it kind of worked last time. I'm just gonna tweak it, just like slightly. Like same, but different.
Yeah.
Sorry, what did you say?
Character development.
Yeah, literally.
Mistakes and fixing it episode to episode. But
that's hilarious.
The spell that he cast is that the Power Rangers, or not just Power Rangers, if anyone puts on these safety sunglasses, they will see the Power Rangers as putties.
Yes.
That's, I don't know, that's needlessly specific, I think. But so Zack and Billy put on the glasses, they see their friends as Power Rangers, as putties. They think that the putties are going to attack the principal, and they end up tackling the principal. They both get detention. And immediately that solves the problem. Because now Zack and Billy are apart from the rest of the Power Rangers. Problem solved.
Yeah. Excuse me. I was thinking that actually this plan doesn't make sense unless you're in actual battle. Because they're not acting like putties. They're literally like, they sound like the Rangers. They're just like hanging around with their backpacks on and stuff. And they're like, I was actually frustrated at Billy because I'm like, Billy, you're so smart. These guys are standing around and talking to you and asking about a math test. I just don't think they're actual putties. But I also, excuse me, I also think that the acting from Billy and Zack was really well done. Like I felt anxious for them. Like they looked genuinely in distress. Like not just like in the Power Rangers distressed way. They looked genuinely like they were in distress. And I'm like, you know what? I feel for you. This is very like mind-boggling, right? Like if that were happening to you, I would. It's just questioning all reality and stuff. Because even when like, yeah, even when you know like this doesn't make sense, and you have somebody like handing you a math test and sounds like your friend, and it's like, what's going on? But it looks like somebody who like always wants to try to kill you, is a traumatizing experience. Like genuinely, that's a traumatizing experience.
Yeah. And I think what adds to it is that it was Zack and Billy. Because if it was just one of the Power Rangers, then they would have been like, are you seeing this? No, I'm not seeing this. Okay, something's wrong with me. Something happened to me. But they both got it at the same time. And then none of the other Power Rangers were like in the middle ground. Like they came later, fully formed as puppies. So they can sort of feed into each other's paranoia inadvertently and up the stakes a little bit. Although, why didn't they see each other as putties?
I just assumed that the glasses, they're just like linked. So the glasses probably, that's my only explanation, because Zedd, okay, first of all, this conversation was hilarious because Goldar's like, why don't they just take the glasses off, right? And Zedd's like, mere humans can take the glasses off, but these Rangers are not mere humans, which makes it sound like they don't know how to take off glasses. But what he meant was, what he meant was he was going to use the Zordon's infused DNA or whatever that weird explanation was to make the glasses effects permanent.
Yeah.
So I assumed whatever fusion they did to the glasses also, like, because it permanently affected their DNA to see it permanently, I feel like that's also what stopped them from seeing each other as putties. Because the plan won't work if both of them saw each other as putties as well. Because then we fall into the same thing that you said earlier, where it's like, no, you look like a putty. Now you look like a putty, whatever. And then Billy will look like, you, like one moment he's fine and you're with your friend, you put on your sunglasses, and the guy next to you looks like a putty but is wearing glasses.
Yeah. I don't buy Zedd's explanation. I think it was just a plot thing.
Yeah, I mean, but Bulk and Skull, when they put on the glasses and they took it off, they went back to normal.
Yeah, because normal humans can take off the glasses.
Yeah, but these Rangers are not mere humans. They cannot take, they cannot take off their glasses. That was so funny. I'm like, that's a weird setup, right?
Yeah.
And do you know what also was a weird setup, but great execution was, okay, so Miss Appleby goes, can you guys come in here? I have to photocopy these things. Can you feed my iguana? Like, how long does it take to feed an iguana that you can't do it before you photocopy the things? Like, won't you asking Vulcan Skull to do it take longer than you actually feeding the iguana? And why are you asking Vulcan Skull, people who are notoriously troublemakers, to do this? Right?
Yeah.
Poor setup. Great execution. First of all, they overfeed this lizard, and it turns into a monster. And they're like, I guess we fed it too much. Chef's kiss. Great execution. Weird setup.
Eugene and Farkas always accidentally figuring stuff out.
Was Farkas? Did we know before now his name was Farkas? Oh my God. Like, what the heck? How could I not know this? Because, you know, you always hear Eugene Skulovich because Bulk is always saying that to Skull.
Yeah.
I just don't feel like we hear Farkas this much. That was so funny.
What's his? I don't remember his last name. I'm not gonna look it up. But
Bulkmeyer.
Farkas.
Bulkmeyer or something? Yeah.
Bulkmeyer.
Bulkmeyer. Is that actually it?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, but see, so again, like back to what I was saying with the last stuff, like it's a two-part plan, right? It's make them see the other Rangers putties, and then this I forgot what the name of it is. It's the iguana salamander combo, which I was just like, a salamander. They're like, the iguana with a mythical. Where'd you combine this? It was okay, whatever. But again, I just appreciate that Zedd is seeming to like make it more difficult for them, right? Make it more complicated. And so, uh, yeah, I think that's really cool. There was that one fight because, like you were saying, it's not too effective in like their regular scenarios, but then they actually were fighting at the playground or whatever, and like Zack went for this like jumping, spinning kick from the top of the like whatever the jungle gym was about to hit Trini. It looked like it was gonna be really bad. He just stopped somehow, like magically. He figured it out to not kick this putty looking person. But I thought he was gonna hit her. Like I thought it was gonna be like a oh no situation.
Yeah, oh my god, that was so stressful. I was like, oh my god, like, you're literally gonna beat up Trini. Poor Trini, first of all. She's just like not having a good time in these next 2 episodes, right? And people are like slightly mean to Trini. I get very, very upset. Like the amount of upset I get versus how mean they're treating, like it's like minuscule amount of mean to Trini, and the upset I get is like astronomical. It's just like, don't you dare.
Yeah.
But yeah, she just kind of like is like around, and people are just like attacking her for no reason.
Yeah. Is
But I think the conversation that they had, that Billy and Zach had right before that happened, was really revealing. And I really like that about these 3 episodes, is that they had to find creative solutions to work around their differences. So the last one was Jason was like, fight me and I'll tell your fighting styles apart, which, as corny as that is, that's a creative solution. And then
and it did work because Trini's like, I can't fight you, and
Yeah,
the monster's like, yeah. I mean, technically, but yeah.
yeah. And then in this episode, they realized that the actual putties would attack them.
right.
Yeah, so same concept, right? Like literally, it's like, hey, our friends won't attack us. It's like the easiest way.
Exactly.
Good solution. Good point.
Yeah.
Yeah. The in that same scene, so they get called to the command center. The visual of seeing them teleport, it's like Billy and Zach, and then like 4 putties. I just really thought that was humorous.
They really are like adding little things here and there that are so funny. Like
Yeah.
the season was so funny. There's so many things where I'm like, this is so clever and so hilarious.
Even
Like,
those in that it's that same scene. I have like a couple of notes where like he explains Zach or Billy explains like that they see them as putties, and Kimberly's just like gross. Like of course she cares how she looks.
yeah. No, and I love that too because the putty's like standing like her and she's like gross, and the putty's like doing the gross thing. Which I thought was so funny. I think the writers are getting really, really clever. I made a note, and I think it was actually in the last episode of the writing for when over the Sentai footage. I'm like, some of it, like they really have to like think about like what the movements are doing and match it up. And I really like, so there's in this one, I think it's like Billy and Tommy, and they're like, the Sentai footage is like, and they're like kind of have their arms up in the air. And they're like, which one is which? I don't know. It's so confusing. And like one of the Sentai footage is someone scratching their heads. And it's like, I don't know. What do we do? And it kind of reminded me of the episode where Tommy and Jason were fighting. And in the Sentai footage, the Red Ranger points at the Green Ranger's belt. And the voiceover goes, if I win, you give up your morpher. And I'm like, you know what? I gotta give credit to these writers. They really do have to sit and be like, what would match? Like, it was good. These guys are doing a good job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although I wonder how much of this is translating what they're saying in the original footage as well. Like, are they taking similar situations and fitting them into their stories so that they can use similar gestures and stuff like that?
It's possible.
Yeah. I don't know.
We need someone on here as a guest who actually has also watched the Sentai.
Yeah. But I also noted that like this is maybe the first time Billy and Zach are like paired off. Which I thought was a different dynamic compared to what we're used to.
Yeah. And it is a good pair. It definitely was like, oh, but they do make a good pair, and you do never really see them together. But it's funny because I don't think I see him with Jason.
Hmm.
Billy and Jason, I think, is the only other one that's like the least common. I think we said Kimberly and Billy is the big one, which is very
Yeah.
random.
Mhm. I think Billy and Jason had like the first episode of season 1, and that's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Billy and Zack as a duo in this one, there's one part that didn't jive well with me, which was when the machine that Billy made broke, and he's like, Zack, you figure out what's wrong.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go fight this monster.
I know
Billy.
that. I know
Why?
that too.
Yeah, literally, I also made a note of that. But I have like an extended note about this whole situation because Billy goes, I haven't had time to test it yet. And Trini is like, all right, just bring an extra computer chip. And I'm like, well, you know what? If the computer chip was that very specific issue, then your guys are going to be good. But any other situation, you're screwed. Luckily, the computer chip was the issue. They just needed an extra computer chip.
I don't know how that works, but yep, it worked.
Well,
When Trini said that, I didn't think that the computer chip would be a plot point, and I would have rather her said, make sure the batteries are in the right way. That would have been a great callback to the previous episode.
That would have been a great callback. That's so funny.
Well,
Uh,
I appreciate
Zack,
it.
figure it out. Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's fine. I appreciate it just because I even wrote down, I was just like, see, this is a sign that Trini's actually smart, whereas Billy's like fake smart.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, she knows. She's like, hey, nudge, nudge, computer chip.
Trini, who has no idea what this is or what it does.
Or yeah,
No-
she wasn't even there. No, you're right, Akil. That's so funny because she just shows up. And it's Zack and Billy that are working on this together, which again, strange, not a combo you usually see. But she shows up and she knows exactly what's up with this machine.
Yeah.
She's like, I don't know what it does, but I understand these moving parts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fine. I'm glad Trini's around.
The one last note I'll share is in the Zord fight, which again, all three the Zord fights are like 2-3 minutes, which is I appreciate because
Me too. Yeah.
I get tired of the Zord. But there are no wide shots in this Zord fight. Like it's close up, extreme close up for the iguana to shoot its fire, and then close ups of like the Zord. Like there's just singles of the Zord and the monster. They're cutting back and forth. It's something we talked about in the last episode, but I just really noticed it this episode. I was just like, oh yeah, okay, clearly they have no footage of them like fighting each other, like physically interacting with each other. So
Yeah.
Yeah, that is funny. There was, I don't know if it's this episode, it might have been the next one where like they try to make it connect with like one of the monsters has like shooting something out of its mouth, but it's pink. And when it wraps around the Zord,
Yeah.
it's black.
That was this episode.
Oh, that was this episode? Yeah. It's so funny. I only have two mini notes for this. One of them is Trini does this amazing move when she's fighting the putties. She like jumps in the air and she does this almost like punch. It looks like they're gonna set her up to like punch the ground and like massively kill all the putties. But all we see is her jump in the air and do the punch, and then all the putties disappear because it's like low budget. Great move. I wish that we could have seen the execution. I understand why not, because they don't have the money. But and then the last note I had was Goldar. It doesn't do anything anymore.
Yeah.
Are you really happy under this new management, Goldar? All you do is like get confused at what Zedd is saying to you, and you're like, I guess.
yeah, that's true. I didn't think about that.
He literally does nothing.
He even gets chastised for it. I don't remember if it was this episode or the next one.
I think it's all
Yeah.
of them.
Did I ask you to talk? Is what Zedd says.
Mhm.
Well,
I don't know.
and at the end of each, like Zedd's just calling them worthless, but like they didn't even do anything this time. Like at least before it was like Goldar was at least out there, or like Squaw and Babu did something. So
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
Rita got mad at them for stuff that they did or failed to do.
yeah.
Whereas
Yeah.
Zed just
Where's Finster? I guess he's useless now because
True, yeah. Zed's
Yeah.
making all the monsters.
Mhm.
in the early episode, Finster does say when the season started, Finster does say, if you use my monsters, you want to have this issue. But that's the last we ever see of him. No, none of these monsters do anything now. They're just there.
Yeah.
Any last notes, Akko?
I think Zedd just needs some thicker skin.
Well,
No, I don't have any other notes on this episode.
laugh out loud. All right, Bloom of Doom. Kimberly is attacked by the Bloom of Doom, a poisonous plant. This is directly taken from the Netflix thing. I didn't write it. But what actually is the summary of this episode is they are signing up for clubs. Nobody shows up for Kimberly's, and she is sad. And everyone's signing up for Trini's, and Kimberly is sad about that.
Yeah, it surprises me. The first thing that caught me off guard is that there are clubs at this school. I thought the club activities are just whatever the Power Rangers are doing that week, because that's what it's been all of season 1. The Power Rangers start a new group or do a new activity and everyone joins in.
Yeah. That's so funny. It's true. I mean, like, now that there's each of you are running an individual club, too much on your plate.
That was my note. I was like, wait, each character has their own club? That's a bit excessive.
I think so.
Following that logic, other like students also must have their own. I mean, maybe they don't, but like that was my brain was like, oh, there are a bunch of students who all have their own clubs. I was like, who's joining the clubs then if they're all just hosting their own?
I think like there is multiple. Like this is like a lot of students have clubs, but not enough that the whole school has their own club.
Sure.
Because the principal does show up and be like, oh, it's confusing. Some of the clubs are like set up in this building and some of them are set up in this building. And then Kimberly's like, where is everyone? I'm like,
somewhere in the school. What?
he says this and Kimberly's like, where is everyone? Kimberly, the principal just said where some people are. Mm-hmm. Right? Maybe they can't find your thing because they like if the principal's confused, everyone else might be confused. If he set it off to the side, maybe like people would be like, oh yeah, that's sucks. You know, we would know, but Kimberly wouldn't know. But Kimberly, like, she said it right at Kimberly's table.
Yeah. But that gets resolved at the end, which is nice. Like nobody showing up at Kimberly's table, I genuinely felt bad for her, but it was also like a little bit suspicious that like if one person who nobody in school really like signed up, then I'd be like, yeah, this is a legit problem. But if nobody came, then it's a little bit fishy.
Yeah, because people even went to Bulk and Skulls. Find who.
At least sounds interesting. Solve mysteries.
Yeah,
I would join that even if it was Bulk and Skull.
Literally, it just it was funny.
Yeah,
they had to bribe people with food though.
I think this was the cruelest they've been, though, in my opinion. Like they
were really mean,
antagonizing Kimberly. Like usually they make their snide comments, but like she was already, especially because she was already feeling so low, and like I was just like, I don't know. This is the other than anytime they physically touched Kim or Trini, this is like the one time of like this is harsh, guys. Like take it easy.
Unusually mean, like, and that's saying something because they're pretty mean. Like they were really on point with their insults this time. Like, oh, poor Kimberly. I felt so bad for her. She's so cute. She's so like, you know, when she's sad, she looks so sad. And like
Trini might be the best actor of the bunch, honestly.
Yeah, no, totally. Poor Trini as well, because Kimberly being mean to Trini. No, I totally agree. Didn't mean to like, but she's like, you're hogging all of them. And Trini's like, that's not my fault. Like, honestly, I was just like, oh my God, guys, like, you can't do this to me. Zedd, this is a good plan. Like, for some reason, when Zedd executes it, it's just like so much more dramatic than when Rita did. Because she did try to kind of cause inner turmoil. When I say for some reason, I'm going to say for some in-universe reason, not out-of-universe reason. Like Zedd is just like more successful at this inner turmoil than Rita ever was, which is funny because like Zedd is like literally doing everything Rita was doing, but just like elevating it slightly because he is doing very super specific. He's getting really invested in their lives and very super specific like monsters and whatnot.
But with Zedd being better at the inner turmoil stuff, one of the things that I didn't like about Rita's inner turmoil is that the solution was always fight, like escape the island, destroy the crystal, and then your inner turmoil is solved. For the last 2 episodes, they actually had to resolve it as humans first. But then in this episode, they went back to, oh, if you throw your dagger at a perpendicular angle, it'll break the spell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We didn't need that. We could have learned something.
We
Yeah.
could have learned something, right? Especially since like her envy was not there, right? It was, sorry, to rephrase, it was there already as a baseline emotion that Zedd amplified with his potion.
Yes.
Because she already was feeling that. And what it did was pretty much make her see red. And if anyone who has ever seen red knows that this is so accurate to what it's like, because you just start getting irrational, right? Suddenly she hates plants. Suddenly she hates like flowers, even though she's part of a gardening club. But when you see red, you're like, no, anything associated with this, I hate everything. Right? Like it's just like it gets into your brain. You can't think rationally at all.
Yeah.
I like how Tommy was like, sorry. I'm so sorry.
It's fine. I don't know if you're going to talk about the leaf or if you're going to talk about Ernie or where your mind's going right now.
Ernie gives Tommy a flower. And he goes and he's like, here's a flower.
To get over it.
I also think it was a fake plant. Like, I don't think it was a real flower.
Even if it was a fake plant, it wasn't a very good fake plant. It was like one leaf on a stem.
Right.
Yeah, it was.
But like,
Yes.
why would a fake flower plant cheer someone up? Even if it was like a big bouquet, if it's like, why would that cheer someone up? Because they'd like be able to tell it's
Especially because they have a whole table full of
she's got enough
actual
plants.
and presumably a garden that they have access to of real flowers.
It's her club. It's a gardening club. Of course,
It's a
she has
garden
access
club.
to all these plants. So I don't know. It was Ernie's. I don't know what he was thinking there.
It was so sweet of Tommy to try, but it was so misguided.
Sure.
Like I couldn't stop laughing. But also, what I thought was interesting was how everyone was kind of reacting to Kimberly being this way, where they were like, hey, so sad that you and Trini got into a fight. So sad that you and Trini are fighting, where that's not what's happening.
Your
right?
best
Your Trini is not involved really in this at all. She just kind of there, and you are fighting with Trini, but everyone's treating it like it's a both of them problem. Like Trini also had a problem with Kimberly when she didn't. Like even at the park, she was like, I don't know, she like got mad at me for no reason. But that's it. She doesn't even really seem like she's not pissed at Kimberly at all. She's not like she doesn't really harbor that like negative emotions toward Kimberly. She's just like more confused. So calling it a fight between her and Trini is such a disservice to Trini. And how all of them are like, oh, sorry about you and Trini, sorry about you and Trini, like as if they were both equally responsible for fighting with each other.
Yeah. I can see where you're coming from. I don't think I had that same reading. I think because they weren't going up to Trini and being like, sorry about you and Kimberly. I think it was just like a sorry that Trini inadvertently hurt you by having a better club. Like, not that Trini did anything wrong, but like it's more of a sorry you feel that way kind of vibe.
Well,
I
they
guess.
also didn't know the actual cause at that point, at least when Tommy first approached her. They didn't know like what happened. So yeah, I think they were just going based off of the little information that I guess Ernie gave them, and he must have just saw from a distance that there was like, tension. This is all headcanon, obviously, but that's because like it was literally she approached Trini, said the stuff, and then like Kimberly talked to Jason and Tommy, or I think I might even be mixing up the order of it. But then Ernie was just like, oh, her and Trini aren't getting along. So they're just going, it was like telephone pretty much, where they're just like, oh, that's the message. So
yeah, which you know what, you're right, and that makes Tommy's gesture less misguided.
Right.
Yeah.
But I get what you're saying. Obviously, like none of it falls on Trini. She was just like a bystander, like I don't even know what's going on. She's just in a mood, I guess.
He's trying to play volleyball.
And I like how Trini's just like, I'll just give her space.
Yeah.
Fair.
Yeah.
You know?
And like really quick on the forgiveness as well. Good for Trini.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's easy when someone's under a spell, right?
Yeah.
Well, my headcanon is that this beef started before she was under the spell. Trini had every right to be legitimately mad at her, but that's not how friends work, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, like, because Kimberly goes, that's good for you. That's so great that you have so many people. For some of us, like under her breath, like there was like already she was jealous, and it's this isn't a jab at Kimberly, honestly. Like, understandable,
Yeah.
understandable. You know what, Kimberly?
I don't
Totally
think
get
she
it.
held anything against Trini though, right?
Yeah.
I don't think. Maybe the spell brought out. It's possible,
Mhm.
which would make more sense because that like the spell brought out these deeper feelings, or did it kind of like create these deeper feelings, right? We don't know what the spell actually
That's true.
does. So it could be, which would then warrant an apology, right? I just thought the way I read it was like, yes, she was like jealous and sad, but she didn't really have anything against Trini specifically, and then the spell kind of like developed those.
Do you know
Yeah.
what? I can see that. I think she was more like going off what you're saying and changing my mind. She was feeling sorry for herself.
Yeah.
Kimberly's so cute. I felt really bad for her. I'm very happy that she had people come to her planting club after. You know, good for them.
It was nice. And she was really nice about it too. She's like, yeah, sorry for the mix up. I'll let you guys know next time. Like, everyone was really solutions oriented at the end of this, which I like.
I also think that she wasn't that mean, right? When she was jealous. Like, she was like frustrated and slightly agitated at everyone, and said like she said some snide comments, but she wasn't like mean how she was when she actually turned evil in other episodes, like Power Punks and whatever. It was just more of like a, like, it wasn't, it was just more of like, you know, oh, I'm frustrated and like I don't want to talk to anybody, and like, why are you taking all these people away from me and stuff like that. So I feel like I like the way this was executed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that she wasn't just like, and I think that's what makes it more kind of believable that she was just jealous, and you know, she doesn't know how to deal with her emotions, as opposed to this is a spell. And I
Yeah.
think that was really well executed.
Yeah, the jealousy definitely came out more than just being like resentful or evil or whatever. Like, you can tell from her words and from her emotions that this was like a jealousy thing.
Yeah, really well done. It was a really well done episode.
Yeah.
They had these little like the subtleties of this episode. When they go to command center and they're like rubbing their eyes from the pollen.
Yeah, I noted that too.
Yeah, just little things that they've tweaked here and there that really kind of like pull the seamlessness of the episode. Really, it just like brings it together.
Yeah. My favorite moment actually was, I think Kimberly was at the park or wherever she was by herself. And then so they're contacting all the Rangers because of the monster or something. And Kim's by herself, so Alpha contacts her and she's like, all right. And the way she says it's morphin time with this like sass and like obnoxious attitude, I thought was so funny and so good.
Morphing time.
It
It's
is
like,
so good.
it's morphin time. It's just like, okay.
Yeah, that goes back, like really ties into what I was saying about like the subtlety of her like acting out. It was because she wasn't like, ugh, it's morphing time. It was like, all right, gotta put on that fake smile and be like, it's morphing time.
Yeah.
And then when we get into when she was morphed, and she is the one who has this weapon and tangles up the monster, and then Trini goes, oh, don't worry, I got it, and like literally removes the tangle. Like, Trini doesn't know that that's what it does, right? Okay, I'm gonna say it's not Trini's fault. She did mess up though.
Yeah.
So I understand why Kimberly was like, oh my god, what are you doing? Like, you're ruining everything.
Right.
Like, on top of her already being frustrated with Trini, it's just like, these are like the things, like these little things.
Yeah, no, I definitely appreciate that. One little thing, and I think this happened in the last episode too, is so they go to the command center, then they come back to face the monster, and then all that really happens is like the Rangers pull out the power blaster. And I'm just like, why is Tommy there? Just like conserve your powers. Like you're not involved with the power blaster. You don't need to be there. You don't even call the Dragon Zord. Like your job is clearly done. Just demorph and like chill. Like stop wasting your powers. But it happened in this episode too, where he just like shows up and then they shoot him with the power blaster. I was just like, dude, you don't need to be there. Like now, when you don't need to be here, you're here. But like when they need you, you're not there before. Like it's just what you doing, Tommy?
Yeah, because literally a few episodes he had to recharge, right? Maybe if
Yeah.
you weren't uselessly using your
Yeah.
powers, like you wouldn't have to like recharge in these like dire situations.
Yeah. And then just like I said, remember in season 1, he was like never there when they could have used him, but now he's just showing up and has no purpose. Just like I know it's probably just the Sentai footage, but like, what are you doing? Just go home.
Get it together, man.
Get
Tommy's he's something else,
Go do
right?
some martial arts.
Yeah, which he was doing these 3 episodes. He's back to doing martial arts.
Oh, okay. My last note for this. They're all like showing the clubs and everything, and Zack goes, "This is the first move we're gonna do." And he does like some crazy like body roll with a spin. I was like, "That's the first move you're gonna teach them, Zack? Like, come on."
This is a beginner class,
Yeah.
Zach. A beginner class.
But compare that to Trini. Her whole first day was just hit the ball once. It doesn't even need to go over the net. Everybody just hit the ball once and we're done.
It's
That's
because
how you start a club.
that is how you start a club. She also has too many people, right? So by the time each person hits the ball, the time is up.
I swore one of the people on the other side were definitely getting hit with each ball because she wasn't having them serve where they're like back by the line. They were like right up at the net, and then like 3 people were just lined up to just get thwacked in the face.
That's so funny. Oh man, you gotta love these little random things that these rangers are doing. Like so unaware of like the skill level. Just because you're good at everything, guys, doesn't mean everyone's good at everything.
No.
We did need to talk about the bulk and skull of it all, because this is like the kind of the big one when it comes to plot wise in terms of their overarching quest to find the Rangers. They do the most in this episode. And even I like how even though they dismiss the range, like these 6 as the Rangers, they still were recording their voices. Like we have, for scientific purposes, we have to suspect everyone. I like how they stuck to that.
Yeah.
And then they had to, but it's funny because they're like, we have to listen and compare it to the voices that we heard. Just listen. Just listen. You don't need to do it on the recording. But I think like their harsh belief that these people, there's no way these people could be the Rangers, really, really does work into the Rangers' favor. Like I believe 100% that they don't recognize the voices because they don't want to recognize the voices.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very much, I even wrote it down in my notes, it's very much the Superman Clark Kent syndrome, right? It's like people in that world are so convinced that they could not be the same because Clark, he hunches over, he doesn't have confidence, and like even with Lex, there's this whole thing of Lex Luthor thinking like, if you were Superman, why would you not spend your whole life just like existing as Superman? And so the idea of him like in a disguise is so baffling to Lex that he could never fathom that it would be right in front of him, this reporter who's like interviewed him 1,000 times.
Yeah, that's true. You know what? In universe, you don't know if they have secret identities.
Yeah.
Because they disappear for a while.
Yeah.
True.
Like they could be like all their time in the command center or like living somewhere, right? Like there's no real evidence that they're like walking around, right?
Right.
Which is when the season started and Zack and not Zack, Bulk and Skull go, oh, these could be real people. And it's like a light moment for them, but not for us. And you're kind of like, well, that doesn't make sense. But now that you just mentioned that, I'm like, you know what? Like they might just think that they live somewhere else, that they're not actually members of society.
Yeah. They've seen them teleport before, so.
Sorry?
I was saying they've seen them teleport before, so it's very plausible that they reside across the world, off world. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? In a different dimension, like.
What were you gonna say, Akil?
The same thing. Because they teleport in and out, they probably live like on a different planet or something.
Yeah. I mean, they know aliens exist now, right? Or I assume they believe Rita, Zedd, all these creatures are aliens. So why is it? It's not implausible for the, or shouldn't be, for them to think like, oh, they go somewhere else, But
Yeah.
yeah, I do think the whole like the personality thing of just like, even though it's less like it should be pretty obvious with the Rangers, right? Color coded and everything like that. But I get it. Like they have such a I don't want to say negative, critical view of the Rangers, like the characters, the civilians, that like they just can't fathom them being Power Rangers, being something more.
Yeah, and not only that, they've known them for so long.
True.
Like, I feel like, they just like by the time they even became Rangers, they were pretty familiar with each other.
Yeah.
So I just think like if Rangers just showed up out of nowhere, someone who you knew your like almost your whole life, you wouldn't think these guys are clearly the Rangers because the Rangers are new and you guys are not. Right?
True.
But
Yeah.
that's just my opinion. I think that the fact that the light bulb moment was, oh, they have voices, they have to be people, for them happened not because they have voices, they have to be people, but these voices sound familiar enough.
Mm.
Right?
Yeah, I think so. Because
Yeah.
that's why they're not like they're checking everyone at their school and at their immediate surroundings. They're
Yeah.
not going around Angel Grove and like trying to find people. So they've narrowed it down at least to the school. Even in the last episode, they're like, the iguana has seen the Power Rangers. The Power Rangers are in this school.
Yeah.
Go find them, iguana.
Go
So they
find
know
them and go on.
somebody in the school.
That was such a good scene too, because like it was funny, but not at someone's expense.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's like, what are they doing? It's like, oh, they're like getting attached to this iguana.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right? I love that also canonically Bulk and Skull are very like kind to animals.
Mhm.
They just have like even like the pig and stuff. Like they're
Yeah.
just very kind to animals, which I like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that I guess concludes final thoughts for all three of these episodes. TLDR, love these ones. Season 2 is like really, really starting off strong.
Yeah.
But until next time, I'm Minhas. I'm joined with Nov and Akil. Stay morphin.
Once a Ranger,
Always a Ranger.